We're talking about doing race prep and course prep by going and doing research on the race you're either going to do or signing up. I know we got Ironman Tulsa coming up. Ironman Chattanooga is a big one. Florida, Boeing 70.3, kind of is applicable for all races. So generally, and this is something I wish I would have known when I went on my adventure of doing my first full Ironman race in Ironman Lake Tahoe 2013. Don't know if they had the maps out yet, but didn't really pay too much attention to the fact that it was in Lake Tahoe and it's pretty mountainous, for lack of a better term, with I think 8,500 feet of climbing elevation gain. Had I known that, I might not have signed up for my first Ironman race at that event, but I did, survived it, and learned a valuable lesson of doing course research before you go out, either sign up for a race or before you do the race, even if you sign up. So take you through the strategy that I go through when I go and do course research, especially when I do course overviews, swim, bike, and run, or anything like that. So we're going to hit the Ironman website, because generally that's going to be your best source of information. Hopefully they are pretty accurate. Sometimes I kind of question the elevation charts as far as the total, whether or not they're counting 1 or 2 laps. But ultimately, I'll show you some other strategies you can go and try that will help you out in the long run. But so basically, let's do, since Tulsa's coming up. So even though, I mean, this is more meant for the membership and kind of strategies to do the races and maybe choose your race and get ready for your race if you're a first timer. Conveniently, it's going to be Ironman Tulsa. I'll be part of the event team coach, so I'm kind of familiar with the race. I'm doing the race, so that kind of helps out. And especially since Chris is on, he'll probably be interested in this as well, even though we've gone over it several times. So I find my race, hit the race details, hit the course tab, and then it pops up. So the first one that shows up is a swim, and I've done a few course overviews specifically for Ironman Tulsa, but this, I mean, it's going to give you a pretty good view of what the race is going to look like. I'm looking for how many turns they got. Right now it's a point-to-point swim, so I'll usually call up here if it's going to be 2 loops, 1 loop. So that's this, just pulling up the map gives me a good idea of what we're looking at, because if you look at other races, let me show you one other one that's a little squirrely. And if you don't do this type of stuff, I mean, things could change from how the race really pans out versus what the map looks like. There's some things on race day that, you just can't really account for. And sometimes we may have to change stuff. So don't get too wrapped around the fact if it doesn't match the map exactly. But if you look at 70.3 Memphis, the swim is rather interesting, because sometimes they're kind of bound by the body of water that they're going to be swimming in. So if you look at this one, it's a bit squirrely. So they've got a lake, it's 1 loop, but they can't, where they have access to do a start and a finish. If you've looked at the videos and everything, they've got like little, I guess, swim areas and docks and entries and ramps and all the other stuff. So they can't do it anyplace else because there's no good accessible area. So they're starting over here and they're doing this kind of weird trapezoidal geometric shape to basically get your 1.2 miles in. So if you don't look at this and you go into race day for Memphis 70.3 and you're like, what in the world? If you're looking at this and don't look at a map, the first time you look at a map is when you show up to the little Ironman village. It could be intimidating, it could throw you off your game a little bit. So always do course recon. Hit the Ironman website, and sometimes they announce these races and they don't have maps. You just kind of have to go off of, well, I'm gonna go ahead and sign up, and just kind of go with the flow. If the bike ends up being hilly, if the run ends up being hilly or flat. You just kind of got to go with the flow and be ready for anything. I would venture a guess it's not going to be anything like Lake Tahoe, where it's 8,500 feet elevation gain, but you could get, if you go back to Tulsa, we got courses. You look at the bike. So you look at the map here, it's a point to point, so it's one loop. So that's kind of nice. You don't have to do two loops, and two loops could be kind of nice. You could go through and get a good feel for the first loop, and it's shorter if you want to go out and drive the course. But a lot of people, me included, if you're going to do multiple loops, it gets kind of tiring after the first couple loops. So having one loop is kind of a nice change of pace. But you also need to pull up the PDF, because then the second page usually is turn-by-turn directions and the elevation chart. So if you look at it, 4,500, almost 4,600 feet of elevation gain. If you've been keeping track of, and that's going to be another resource, the actual official Facebook page, you'll notice that they did a little bit of change here. It was on a highway, and then they worked with Tulsa Department of Transportation and moved it down this little road here. Supposedly it's a little bit nicer, a little bit more scenic. And that's what the Ironman originally wanted to put it on anyway. So the main thing is you're going to have this little sharp hairpin turn here that you kind of got to watch out for. But other than that, the course changed. Nothing else up here changed. So it's all the same. But if you look at it, it's nice. There's no sharp 90-degree turns except for this guy right here. So for the most part, you should be able to stay in an arrow position. So stuff like that, if you look at the bike for Memphis, it's going to be a single loop, and it gives you a good idea for where you're going. If you're heading north, south, east, west, it's going to be facing the sun, what time of day, all that kind of fun stuff. So this is, like I said, the first line of defense is going to the Ironman website. Find all the course maps. So we go back to Tulsa, look up the run map. You'll see that it is a 2-loop run. So you're going up and down the river. And I've lived in Tulsa for 9 months on a job site, and I've covered it for territories for another job. So this river walk, run, path, whatever you want to call it, along Riverside Drive, I used it quite a bit for my workouts and training and other stuff. So I kind of know it pretty good. It's a nice paved path. It's got trees along it. It's scenic, so you're looking out at the river on one side. Especially in May, the water will be probably pretty good. So hopefully it's not like last year where there was flooding along here and it caused problems along the river trail. But we're gonna assume that it's gonna be perfect on race day. But it gives you a nice idea. You pull up the PDF, you see it's 2 loops. You come down here for the turn, and if you look, maybe Florida is a little bit flatter, 200 feet of elevation gain, but man, other than you get a nice little downhill coming out of transition, and then you're going to have to run uphill a little bit to get back to the finish line. But it does not get flatter than that, especially at your turnaround. They don't bring you back up to this little climb going on here. So this should be pretty nice, as far as you're probably going to spend a little bit more effort on the bike, and this is where the planning goes in, doing the course recon. 4,600 feet of elevation gain on her 12 miles isn't at the end of the world. I think Ironman Chattanooga is about 4,800 feet, but it's going to be pretty taxing. So it's going to be kind of nice to come to a nice flat run course and know that you have a flat course. So that's where this comes into play when you're coming to your planning, or your coach's planning your workouts, knowing where you need to spend that extra time. It's either on the bike or on the run. So Ironman Chattanooga, you've got about 4,800 feet of climbing on a bike, and then you come and you've got some pretty good climbs on the run too. So strength, muscular endurance is going to be a big, key, important factor, not just on the bike, but on the run as well. So if you focus too much on the bike and forget about the run, you're really going to pay for it. So the same with like Memphis. You go to the bike course and you go to the run course. So you can see it's going to be 2 loops through this park. It's kind of nice too to get a map of this, so you can kind of plan out with your spectators. Because if you look right here, this is going to be a little hot corner. So if you've got spectators coming into the park and watching you, this is going to be a perfect spot to be setting up shop. Put them right here maybe if there's a little open spot. And then you're right by the finish line. You're right by all these turns, see your athletes. It's really nice to plan out not just for your race day, but also plan out for your spectators so they can see where you're at. But then you look, which is ironic, this is a half Ironman and it's got 800 feet of gain, whereas Tulsa full Ironman has 600 feet of gain. So 200 more feet in 13.1 miles. So there's going to be a little bit of work here being done. So just be prepared for that. It looks like there's a nice little hill coming out. So that, again, this is where coming and checking out the course maps is really going to pay dividends. And aside, you know, like I said, for my athletes, I already do this. I already know this going in when I'm planning their workouts and planning their training and leading up to the races. I already know this stuff. I know where we need to spend more time or not, but this gives you a good idea. So this was my first stop. Going to the Ironman website, finding the course maps, and then you're good to go on that. But then go to Facebook. See all my updates. I go to the official web page first. I always join the kind of unofficial Facebook pages, but if you go to the official Facebook page, this is key. And I always go to these pages following. I want all on. I want to see all posts. So every time they post something, I get a notification in email that something has happened, they posted something. So ask the race director. Next week, your race director, Alan Mendez, will be answering all your questions. So without that, I wouldn't have known necessarily unless I saw it the last minute. Might miss it. So, you know, they've got their generic posting of odds and ends, update the website, some Kobe, We Love Tulsa, magazine, trying to find the post where they had announcement about the course changes. So if you're going through, so here it is. So this is the announcement of the course changes. So this is where you find out, and they go through the maps, they tell you, and talk to you about all the change and everything. So this is my secondary source of information. So if you have any questions, you can go to the posts, do a search, type up course, run course, run course, bike course. So, you know, you can just type up a keyword in the Facebook page and pretty much find anything you need. So if you've got any questions, anything changes, you can always go to the Facebook page. Then I go to the unofficial Facebook page, and it's interesting because people will go out and ride the course. So here's a nice little post. Somebody went out and rode the course, and they just paved the road. So it's nice to know. Casino Hill, Highway 97 northbound, new blacktop going in today. So that's nice. And there's one of the posts that I put on there. I actually had some nice weather in Kansas City go training. So again, they shared this post. It's just good to be on top of it. And I went and picked the biggest page. So this one has 2,200 members, 702. I mean, I'm in all the groups, and I've got notifications set on here. So like I said, I've got all posts. So I get notification in email that something has come up and that they've got something about the course coming up. So that is my fail safe fallback to making sure I'm staying up to date on information. And it's always good, you know, to make sure that your email you've got Ironman.com is not on your blocked list. It's on your safe senders list. So they'll put out emails all the time, any updates on the races or anything like that. So that's key. And, you know, worst case, you can go to Google Maps and look up stuff too. You can go to Map My Run or Best Bike Split, all these other software, and, you know, Strava. You can go and map out courses and get some elevation off of that information too. So if you want to go through and you want to map this out, just that you don't believe that 600 feet of elevation gain, or you go to the bike maps. Like, I don't believe that's 4,600. You can look at the course map, go trace it out on Strava or something like that if you have a spare 20 minutes or something, and really see what the elevation is. If you don't believe it yourself, you can go back and check it. But I wanted to kind of give you bird's eye view from beginner to experienced athletes. This is key. If you don't know your course, you don't know how to do your training. So if you sign up for half and you're experienced athlete and you're like, oh, I don't really care what the course is like anyway, I highly recommend going in here and at least knowing what to expect and go out there and race day. I mean, it's the best thing you can do if you don't live in the area, to go train on the course and to go, because I'm doing Ironman Tulsa. I haven't been down in a while. I'm doing Memphis 70.3, doing Des Moines 70.3. Like, I don't have time to go to these places and drive around the courses and stuff. So the next best thing with all this technology is to be able to go and look at the maps, elevation profiles, go to the unofficial Facebook pages. People put videos of the courses all the time. Even YouTube, I post my overviews and everything on YouTube. If you want to go, and if you're watching this, then you get the email link with the YouTube. But Set the Pace Triathlon. So all my courses are on here. Some playlists. I've got Memphis 7.3, Florida. So everything, I try to tag everything the right event. Chattanooga. So you don't want to watch me talk about this, but there's tons of videos on bike strength and run workouts for Ironman Chattanooga. I've been part of the Ironman events team, so I post videos on workouts you should be doing. So there's plenty of information aside from official Ironman course, aside from unofficial Facebook pages, my information, Ironman course information. So there's plenty of ways to go out there and get this information. And if you're being coached, even if it's not by me, your coach should be well versed in an event such as this magnitude, a 70.3 and 40.6. They need to know what the course is going to be and how to set up a training. If they don't know, if they're just giving you a generic plan, that's not going to be good. Because if you're doing a generic plan and you go into a race such as Ironman Tulsa and you got 4,600 feet of biking to do, especially in Tulsa, it could be windy. And if you're fighting a headwind and you're not sufficiently trained to be able to efficiently get through the bike course and then hit this run course, even though it's flat, it's still going to run you into the ground because you spent too much of your energy on the bike course. So know the courses. That is key. Go and investigate them. Even if it's not an Ironman branded event, you should be able to have a course map. Most events these days, the technology's there. Go make a course map. If they don't post a course map with elevation, you can go and do Map My Run, Map My Ride. You map it out and find it yourself. It's like Olympic, sprint, whatever, and know what the elevations are, know what the terrain is and topography is, what that's going to be like. There really is no excuse. There's tons of options out there to go find this information. But specifically, if you're doing an Ironman event, pretty much any event out there, I'm kind of curious. Well, we got you here. Find your race. We got a Facebook page for Washington that they just released, and people are begging for a race plan, but I have not created a training plan, just put Training Peaks, because at the time they didn't have course maps. So coming soon, coming soon, coming soon. I am not going to create a training plan that's more generic for people to buy off Training Peaks, because I don't know the course. I don't know, they said right here, it's a lake swim. So yeah, you shouldn't have to really worry about, currents and that type of thing. But, I want to see what the size of the lake is compared to the swim. So if it's a big lake, you could have waves, you could have wind issues. Like, to be determined. I'm not going to make a plan or training plan for anybody. Or if I had an athlete doing this and they want to start getting rain out, this is September. I'm like, well, worst case, we're going to do some strength on the bike, because they could throw you on a bunch of hills, and I'd rather you be ready for hills than flat. The run, they say flat is going to be on the trail system, but it could be crushed gravel. Who knows? I mean, until they post the actual maps, I'm not making a plan for anybody. That's my personal take. So I'm waiting for this to be posted as far as the maps go. But like Des Moines, Tulsa, Memphis, all those are out there and doing reviews on them. You know, Chattanooga is pretty much the same. They don't really change the course. Chattanooga 70.3, Boulder, they change the course once in a while, but the terrain's pretty much the same. Anytime you go near the foothills, it's going to be, you know, a slow climb upgrade. So there's things, you know, I've done races enough times that I know the topography, but something like this is a new race. You know, if you live there local and you're just going to sign up because it's local and you want to go there, then that's great. But until they post a course map, who really knows what they're going to pick out there or where they're going to be forced to go? You know, there could be road constructions, or could be projects going on that they close down sections of the road. Who knows what's going to go on out there? There could be mudslides. You know, heavy rain takes out a road. Who knows between now and when they actually publish a race plan? So just be aware when you do sign up. Go up there, see if they've got course maps. At least, you know, this gives you something. The bike to be determined. So you don't know if it's hilly, you don't know if it's flat, you don't know if it's mountainous climbs, you don't know nothing. I do like the average air temperature of 65 degrees Fahrenheit. That's kind of nice. Average water temperature to be determined. That's kind of tough because it's on a lake swim, and I assume they kind of know what body of water. I'm not familiar with the area, but you know, hopefully, if the air temperature is 65 degrees, you know, hopefully you're going to assume it's going to be wetsuit legal or at least optional. It's not going to be a problem. Know the course. Do your research. You know, we've only been talking for a grand total of, let's see here, how many minutes this one's been going for. I don't have my timer up, but you know, we've been talking for maybe 15 minutes, and all you gotta do is just thumb through the course. They make it fairly easy. You can do this on your phone, just look it up. Know if you're going to do 2 loops. I mean, and that helps too when you do the race. You need to know if you're doing 2 loops, if you're doing a lollipop loop somewhere and coming back in. You don't want to make the wrong turn on the course. You don't want to be caught off guard when you go to check in an Ironman Village and that's the first time you've looked at the course map. You don't want to do that. This is the key to beginning your journey to either finish a 70.3 or 140.6 if you've never done one. If you've done some and you're fairly experienced, you want to go through and do your homework, do your research. It took 15 minutes. Look up the course maps, 2 loops, 1 loop, elevation gain, elevation loss, what kind of swim you're looking at, and then you're good to go. So that's basically it. I don't see any comments or anything like that, but this will be, the replay will be coming on to you. And if you got any questions, like always, reply back and I will get comments back to you or answer your questions or find a resource. Hopefully it will get you pointed in the right direction. With that, we'll talk to you next time.